Welcome back to Arc Salt Lake, where we cover authentic, relevant, and community stories. Happy Friday.
Well, there is certainly a lot going on in Washington, around the world for that matter, that is impacting people here in Utah. Tariffs, of course, have been a hot topic this week, with the Trump administration adding them early in the week and then days later placing a 90-day pause on most tariffs.
Okay, we want to get right to the middle of all this. We have Utah Senator John Curtis joining us live this morning. I guess it's been quite a week, but what do you make of all of the tariff action this week?
First of all, I want to express to particularly Utah businesses and especially small businesses how frustrating this must be, and hearing from them, and I want to continue to hear from them. I think perhaps even worse than tariffs for small businesses is unpredictability. And I think one of the things that we've got to figure out here is this: they're on, they're off, they're on, they're off. It makes it near impossible for people. And then also acknowledging that tariffs are disproportionately hard on small businesses. And we need to think that through as we make policy here in Washington, D.C., to be really, really careful with our small businesses. And as both of you know, that's a big portion of our business culture in Utah. And then the third thing is, yes, where tariffs are appropriate, what should they be, and what is Congress's role in all of that?
Yeah, so how do you feel about the way President Trump is handling all of this? Is he approaching this the right way, in your opinion?
Well, first of all, I've learned not to try to outguess the president, so let me just be clear with that. But I'll come back to this predictability thing. I think that if there is some refinement from the administration, that's one of the things I would ask for is, look, tell people what they can expect, why they can expect it, and how we're going to get there. And I think that's what most people I'm hearing from are telling me, is they just need more answers to their questions.
And in the past, you've kind of been concerned about the tone, not exactly what's being done, but how it's being issued, how it's being addressed.
Yeah, correct. So, for instance, if we're throwing these tariffs in without really talking about the impact, and here again, I'll go back to small businesses, I think that's a huge mistake. And part of that is communicating with our business community and those that are impacted by tariffs. You know, and it's, by the way, it's not just our business community. I've heard from Utahns who have watched literally a year's worth of savings disappear from their 401k in a day, only to have that happen the next day. And when that's coming without explanation or without kind of a roadmap of where we're going, that's even more difficult.
Yeah, the American people, have voted in a big turnout for President Trump. But this frustration is going to grow if this continues.
I think that's fair, and I also, I point out, even though some people don't like that, he did campaign on tariffs. We saw tariffs in Trump's first presidency. I think the difference is this is very different than what happened in the first presidency. That the size and the scope of it is very different, and I think it's fair to say it's caught people off guard.
Well, we know that World Trade Center Utah, Governor Spencer Cox, they just went on a trade mission to Canada. How is the 25% tariff on products from Canada affecting, you must be hearing from Utah constituents.
Yes, and here again, I'll just say there is some confusion here, and confusion is not good. And as I understand it, that everything that was part of the MCA is not tariffed in that category, and that is a high percentage of what's coming from both Mexico and Canada, but it's not everything. And so here again, more uncertainty, and the more we can tell people exactly what's happening and explain that it's not, if it's part of MCA, they don't have to worry about it, the better we will be doing.
Well, the focus right now, of course, is on China. This is where it's really been escalating back and forth. How is this going to be resolved?
Yeah, so let me point out first of all that when there's a case for tariffs, it's probably, to me, no better case than China. And let me tell you what I mean by that. We're asking American businesses to compete with other businesses who pay no attention to human rights, who pay no attention to some of the safety standards that we require of our businesses or the emission standards. And you can imagine the frustration of competing with something on the shelf that doesn't have any of those regulations. Is very, very difficult. And in addition, we've got the Chinese government stealing our IP, our intellectual property, in a nefarious nature, undermining us around the world. So I do think there's a strong case here for tariffs. Now, I'll come back to the predictability portion of it, and to make sure those tariffs are in line with what we're trying to fix. And so it'll be interesting to see how it plays out, because if there's a true description of a tariff war, we're experiencing that right now with China. We're approaching numbers that are almost nonsensical in the amount of tariff that we're putting on and that they're putting on, and we can see why they call it tariff war. It's certainly escalating.
Well, for the average Utahn, what's your message? Is it just chill out or buckle up?
No. First of all, it's I hear you, and I want to continue to hear you. You know, I encourage everybody to continue to reach out with their stories. And by the way, it's my intent to pass those stories on to the White House. The more that we can connect the White House with what people are experiencing, the better. So it's not chill out. I get it. This is the last thing that I want to tell people is to chill out. I understand their concern. The second thing is I hope they know I'm doing everything that I can to bring more predictability into this. As I speak with the White House officials, my message to them is, look, we've got to be more predictable. We've got to do a better job of explaining where we're going and why we're going there, and understanding that when we ask for pain, exactly what that pain is.
Okay.
And one quick question, should Congress have a little bit more control in this tariff debate?
I would say we should have a lot more control, not a little. And we have to admit here that this is decades ago, many decades ago, and over time, what the founders gave us in the Constitution, we have seceded to the president, and we do need to have a conversation about that. I do think there are reasons over time that we have given the executive branch this power, the flexibility, the ability to move quickly are all tempting, but this is a really good example where Congress should be the body making this policy. We're talking about substantial policy that impacts worldwide trading. And for that to not go through the kidneys of the legislatures was not the intention of the founders. And it is time in Washington, D.C. to have a conversation about what we should allow the executive to do and what we should claim as our responsibility.
Well, there is an effort underway now to make that happen.
Yeah. Well, Senator Curtis, thank you very much. We appreciate you taking the time to talk with us, kind of on a frequent basis, to let folks know what's going on. And this is kind of a really tumultuous time, so we certainly appreciate you taking the time to be with us.
And thank you to you and your listeners. Let's do it again very soon.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks so much.